Namaskar. I welcome all of you for the CTET online training program. And in this session, we are going to discuss the chapter The Living World. So it is from CTET paper 2, Science. So since this is a big chapter in science, we will be dividing it into 3 different sessions. So first part will be on the cell itself. The later parts we will discuss later. So this session is completely about cell, and later we will discuss other parts of the living world. So in this, so what are we going to do in this session? How are we going to carry forward this session, and what are we going to discuss in this session of part 1 of the living world? So in this, we'll first discuss about the questions that were asked previously, how are they, and what concepts they are touching more, and how the questions are being asked. Then we'll discuss about the concepts, the major concepts, and the common concepts which CTET is trying to test the people who are giving the exam. Next, we'll also discuss some of the previous year questions based on the content that we discussed. At last, we will have a recap. So this is how our session is going to be. So first we will discuss the trend analysis regarding the questions from various subtopics in this living world. Then we'll discuss the concepts related. Then we'll come to the previous year questions related to the concept. Then we'll have a quick recap. So this is how our session is going to be. So let us go forward. And before going into the topic, so let us see on what concepts and what areas CTET is trying to test the people who are giving the exam. Okay, so the major concepts repeatedly touched upon are cell. Okay, it's about the cell and cell structure, regarding especially with respect to cell wall and anucleate cells. That means with respect to nucleus of the cell. Then plant cell versus animal cell, which is again repeatedly asked. Then organelles of the cell. What are the different organelles of the cell? What are their functions, and what is their role inside the cell? Then prokaryote and eukaryote cells. So there are 2 different types of cells, which is one is prokaryotic cell and another is eukaryotic cell. So what is the difference between them? How they are different, and what are the different roles that they have, and how the evolution happened from prokaryotes to eukaryotes. Then the last one is nucleus, chromosome and gene. This is very, very, very important in the with respect to cell subtopic, because nucleus dominates in CTET science paper with respect to this living world chapter. So nucleus, there are a lot of questions from every year. At least 1 or 2 questions will be definitely asking from the nucleus subconcept. Then definitely prokaryote and eukaryote, and how are they going to ask questions in this chapter? So they are asking analogy type of questions. Okay, analogy, like for example, they will we will discuss the type of questions at the end of our session. We will show you how the questions are being asked. The one type is analogy type, other type is not type. That means which among the following is not. Okay, the questions that start with which are not of the options, which is not the correct answer, which is not the correct function. This is how questions are being asked. An analogy part you will understand once I will show you the previous year question that was asked. So let us move forward without much delay. So we'll discuss first the concepts, the major concepts, very important concepts to be discussed about this chapter, and majorly the questions are entirely coming from these concepts only. Majorly they are touching upon these concepts. So we will be focusing more on these concepts only. Then we will be moving forward to the questions, the previous year questions that were asked. So the major one of the major concept is the cell itself. What is a cell? Okay, the concept of cell itself. Then cell is a unit of life. So it is not only unit of life, it is structural and functional unit of life, right? It is structural and functional. So every one of us know why cell is called as structural and functional unit of life, because cell provides structure and cell also provides function to the living organism. Okay, so with respect to cell, how they are asking to questions. So based on the analysis of previous year questions, we have come up with the facts that were being tested from people. Okay, so the facts about cells. regarding the discovery. The questions were more on the discovery of the cell, in which year, who discovered, what they discovered, in which year, the living cell was discovered, who gave the cell theory. So like facts were being tested in the previous year questions. So that's why we came up with the most important facts here. So this you have to remember before going to the examination. So we'll see the facts now. So who observed the who observed the cell for the first time? It was Robert Hooke. So it was Robert Hooke in 1665. Okay, so please remember the years also, because they will be asking about years also. Which among the following is the right year, in which the first cell was observed by Robert Hooke, something like that. Okay, so what did he observe? He observed the dead cork cells. So he observed the cells in a cork and they were dead cells. The first cell that was observed by Robert Hooke in 1665 was a dead cell. Okay, and he was the one to coin the term cell. He gave the the terminology of a cell. So question can be asked like who coined the term cell, and they will give the options like Robert Hooke, Leeuwenhoek, Swan and Sheldon, Robert Brown. All these names they will give you options, and you will have to choose the right one. So questions will be of this sort. So next, who observed? Okay, who observed the first living cell? Okay, who was the one? Who was it? Who observed the first living cell? It was Leeuwenhoek. That too, it was in 1670. Okay, so it was in 1665 first cell was observed, which was not living. A first living cell was observed in 1670 by Leeuwenhoek. Okay, so he observed in a pond, cells in pond, which was observed by, those cells were bacteria. Then Sheldon and Swan in 1838, between 1838 to 39, they gave the cell theory. So these Swan and Sheldon. So whenever you hear about cell theory, who gave cell theory? So what's Sheldon and Swan? In which year? It is 1838 to 1839. So what does this theory talk about? It talks about all the organisms are made up of cells. So no matter what kind of organism it is, either it's unicellular or multicellular or complex organism or simple organism, every organism is made up of cells. So this was a theory given by Sheldon and Swan in 1838 and 39. So this is called as cell theory. And Vico is one more scientist in 1855. He said cells arise from pre-existing cells. So he just little extended the theory, cell theory, and he said cells arise from pre-existing cells. From where do cells come from? They come from the pre-existing cells. So when cells arise, since cells come from pre-existing cells, so there is a possibility of evolution that we need to understand. And one more important scientist, Robert Brown, who discovered nucleus. Very important. All of you must remember this. So because questions will be highly focusing on the nucleus part of the cell. So it was Robert Brown who discovered the nucleus inside a cell. Okay, it was in the year 1838. So one quick fact that you can remember, which is given here. So mycoplasma is the smallest living cell but has no cell wall. So if a question comes, which is the smallest living cell but doesn't have a cell wall, so we have to choose the mycoplasma. Okay, so let us move forward. So this is about the major and important facts regarding cell, regarding its discovery, regarding the people who discovered and what they discovered. So the next concept on which CTET was focusing, okay, the next most important topic is the types of cell, prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. So let us discuss what is a prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. So this was based on how the types were given, based on organization of cell. Okay, so it was based on organization of a cell, how things were organized, how complex a cell was. Is it simply organized? It is complexly organized inside. Okay, based on organization of a cell or structure of a cell also. You can also say structure. Sorry. okay, based on structure. So plants, sorry, yeah, prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell. So prokaryotic and eukaryotic. Remember the word pro. Pro means simple cell, okay, simple cell. U means it is complex cell. So what is the difference between these two? The difference between prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cell, we will also be seeing the diagram once, and you will already know how they look and the differences between prokaryotic cell and eukaryotic cells. But let us discuss from the perspective of how CTET ask questions with respect to prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So they will be asking, so the difference is prokaryotic cells doesn't have a proper nucleus, okay, so DNA will be floating in the nuclide, okay, so there is no like for example, if these are two cells, okay, eukaryotic cell has a proper nucleus, okay, whereas a prokaryotic cell, okay, doesn't have an appropriate nucleus. So this is how it looks, okay. So this is the difference. Nucleus will be present in eukaryotic cells, a nuclear membrane will be there, whereas in prokaryotes nuclear membrane won't be there. So ribosome bound organelles only, okay, it is very smaller in size, from 1 to 10 micrometers, okay, they are simple and circular DNA. So the DNA will be like this, okay. So examples are bacteria, cyanobacteria are the examples of prokaryotic cells. The eukaryotic cells, they have true nucleus inside the nuclear membrane. So there is a true nucleus here, you can see there. So, and we'll also be seeing the diagrams. So it has mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes. All the organelles will be visible appropriately. The structure of organelles is seen very clearly, and it is more organized than prokaryotic cells. So it's the size is 10 to 100 micrometers, it will be there, and linear chromosomes. So the examples of plant cells are, examples of eukaryotic cells are the cells that are present in plants, animals, fungi, amoeba, the higher level of organisms, the complex organisms has eukaryotic cells. Then one more type of there is again two different types of cells based on the living organism in which they are present, okay. So plant cells have different kinds of cells, and animals have different kinds of cells. So there is a clear-cut difference on which the CTET was focusing. So how a plant cell looks and how an animal cell looks, what are the difference between these two? Let us see once. So plant cell has cell wall, okay, and fixed rectangular shape. The shape is different from animal cell, whereas animal cells doesn't have a cell wall, okay, and they are flexible and irregular in shape, okay, that is irregular in shape. So plant cells has chloroplast for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process where plants prepare their own food, okay, and how they prepare? With the help of chloroplast. So only plants has chloroplast. Animal cells doesn't have chloroplast because animals depend on other organisms, on plants for their food purpose and energy needs, whereas plants are not like that. Then one large central vacuole. These have many small and temporary vacuoles, okay. So chromosomes are present and many lysosomes. Here no centrosomes, so lysosomes are little less. So these are the differences. Now let us understand it clearly with the diagrams. So you can see the diagram here. First one is about plant cell and animal cell, then prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. We can clearly see the organelles, membrane bound organelles inside the eukaryotic cell, whereas in prokaryotic cell you cannot see membrane bound organelles, and nucleus, proper nucleus, you cannot see in prokaryotic cell. There is a DNA material, okay, there is a DNA, but you cannot see, it is not enclosed in a membrane, whereas you can see here it is enclosed in a membrane. So this is a major difference. And regarding plants and animal cells, there is a cell wall in plant cell, okay, then there is again chloroplast, okay, then whereas here there are no cell walls and there is no chloroplast in animal cells. So these are the differences. If you want, you can just go through it quickly after the session also. You can go through the video again. So these are the differences. And the third most important, let us move to third most important concept on which CTET will be focusing, that is organelles of the cells. So we know cells have different organelles. We can see a lot of organelles here. There is vacuole, mitochondria, then we have smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, we have lysosomes, we have ribosomes. So all these are called as organelles of the cell, and each one has different function inside that cell. So questions are being asked more on these organelles also, apart from the cell and cell types. So from the perspective of CTET, we should be able to understand we should be able to know the function of each organelle and what are the nicknames. Sometimes question will be asked, right, which among the following is the brain of a cell? So they'll name they'll give options of 4 options of organelles, and we have to identify which one is a brain of a cell, or which one is a powerhouse of a cell, which one is a protein factory of a cell. So this is how the different names are given to different organelles based on the function that they do inside the cell. So this is how questions are being. The cell activities, whatever the activities that happens inside the cell are controlled by the nucleus. That is why it is called as the brain of the cell. Okay, so it holds DNA and chromosomes. So what does it have? The nucleus has DNA and chromosomes, so which also DNA and chromosome help in. So its function is also heredity means passing on the traits, passing on the characteristics from one generation to other generation. What is responsible? DNA and chromosome. And where they are present? They are present in the nucleus. Okay, next organelle is mitochondria, and it is called as powerhouse of the cell. Why mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell? Because it will generate ATP. Okay, it releases ATP. ATP means energy currency. Okay, the energy is addressed in terms of ATP. Okay, so not all the cells will have chloroplast. Only plant cells will have chloroplast. So why it is called as kitchen of the cell? Because it performs, it is more, it is useful for the photosynthesis process, and photosynthesis, the process of food preparation in plant cells. So it is only in plant cells, not in animal cells. Ribosome, next most important this thing. So ribosome is called as protein factory of the cell. It is called as protein factory of the cell. And why it is called as protein factory? Because it synthesizes the proteins inside the cell. So whatever the body, the protein needs, of the body or the cell are prepared by the ribosomes. So they manufacture the proteins in the cell. That's why they are called as, since they are manufacturing the protein inside the cell, they are called as factory. Okay, protein factories. Okay, all cells will be having ribosomes. Then lysosomes, they are suicidal bags. Suicide means related to killing of an organism, self-killing and all that. So this is why lysosome is called as suicidal bag, because they have digestive enzymes. They have digestive enzymes to kill its own cell and kill some other organelles if they are not functional, if they are damaging the other parts, and any damaged organelle or damaged cell will be digested, will be killed by the lysosome and will be removed from the cell. So that it acts as a suicidal bag. So it helps the cell to suicide itself. That is why it is called as suicidal bag. And how it digests the cell or any damaged part of the cell, it is because of the digestive enzymes. Okay, clears the waste. Then Golgi body is the post office. So it acts as a post office. The nickname is post office. And why it is called as post office of the cell? Because it packages and dispatches proteins. What does a post office does? It envelops all the letters and post to different places. So that is what Golgi body does inside the cell. It packages all the proteins and dispatches to different places wherever the need of a protein is there. So these are the different organelles. Okay, so these are their nicknames, just right side, and these are the functions. So all of you must remember these things, because questions will be based on this information only, mostly factual, asking the function of organelles and calling them with the nicknames and asking them to identify which one will be called as brain of the cell, which one will be called of the kitchen of the cell and all. So these kind of questions will come with respect to organelles of the cell. So ribosomes are the only organelles found in both eukaryotes and prokaryotics. So this fact also you people must remember. So next most important and the most important concept under this cell, okay, under this subtopic cell is nucleus. So whether questions will come from other parts like prokaryotic, eukaryotic and all or not, we don't know, but definitely questions will come from the nucleus part of the cell and their functions, the structure and all. So what does nucleus, what is the function of nucleus and what kind of questions will come from nucleus? So based on the questions that are asked with respect to nucleus, so we have come up with the content here. So nucleus control center. So the questions were based on the function of the nucleus. So as we discussed earlier also, it directs all activities. It is responsible for growth, metabolism and division of cell. Okay, so it carries hereditary material, that is chromosome and genes. We all know that the characters from one generation to other generation will be passed with, because of the chromosomes and genes, right? So these chromosomes and genes are present in nucleus and they carry the hereditary material. Okay, so nuclear pores move materials in and out. So the nuclear membrane will be there in eukaryotic cell especially, and this nuclear membrane will have pores through which the materials move in and out. So inside the nucleus, what is present? We already discussed. They have chromosomes and genes. So chromosomes. What are chromosomes? They are thread-like DNA structures. Okay, they are thread-like DNA structures inside the nucleus. If this is the nucleus, this is cell, so DNA will be present like thread-like structures. Okay, so don't forget. So genes are the segments of chromosome unit head. So genes will be present on the DNA. Okay, DNA metal. There will be genes will be present. They are responsible for heredity. So nucleus makes ribosome parts. So these are the areas and this is the content on which the CTET was asking questions and focusing more in the previous year questions. So let us move forward. So don't forget, nucleus is very important and its functions and what does it contain and what is the function of it. Okay. Then what makes a cell? Okay. So what makes a cell a living organism? So we know the characteristics of living organisms. So a cell will have all the characteristics of a living organism. That's what makes a cell as living. So it has organization, it has metabolism, it has growth, reproduction, movement, responsiveness, adaptation, everything. Okay, so all these are characteristics that the cell possess. That's why it is called as living. It has all the characteristics of a living organism, and any living organism is made up of cell itself, right? So, and there are some other facts that we need to remember. Cells of a tissue match. Okay, for example, we have different tissues in our body, like we have nervous tissue, we have muscle tissue, we have skeletal tissue and all. So each tissue has similar cells. All the cells in a tissue will be having similar structure and similar function. So anucleate cells exist. Remember this also very important. I think this question was asked in 2-3 years continuously. So anucleate means cells without nucleus. Okay, cells without nucleus, those cells are called as anucleate cells. Nucleate cells and anucleate cells. So what are these cells which doesn't have nucleus? These two are the examples of anucleate cells. Matured RBCs, okay, and in plant there are sieve tube cells. So these two cells doesn't have nucleus. They are called as anucleate cells. Okay, shape and size vary from tissue to tissue. So different tissues have different types of cells, and as their structure will be different, their function also will be different, and size and shape also will be different. So no living things may show one or two signs, but never all together. Okay, so this is one more important topic. So we have seen the most important topics with the CTET. Okay, we have already discussed. So this question is from 2022. So as we said, nucleus is the most important. The question is here. The question is like, which is not a function of the nucleus? So not question, not type of question. Okay, which is not a function of the nucleus. So which is the answer? So to provide shape and rigidity to the cell. Okay, is it to provide shape and rigidity to the cell? Then option 2, to transfer traits to offsprings via genes. Then option 3, to act as a control center of the cell. Option 4, to allow movement of materials in and out via pores. We have already we discussed just few minutes earlier, we discussed that the functions of nucleus, and we saw that it has traits and it will pass genes to characteristics to offsprings. Then we also saw it acts as a control center of the cell. We also saw that it allows movement of materials through its pores. So the wrong answer is, so which is not the function here? Providing shape and rigidity to the cell. Nucleus is present inside the cell. It's not the whole cell, it is present inside the cell. So what provides the shape and rigidity to the cell then? It is cell wall. Okay, it is cell membrane that provides shape and rigidity to the cell. In plant cells, even cell wall also acts. In animal cells, it's membrane. It's actually cell membrane, but plant cells have cell wall, so that also helps here providing shape and rigidity. So this is not the function of a nucleus, whereas it is a function of a cell wall. Okay, not the nucleus. So what should we understand? So the three nucleus jobs: controlling, carrying hereditary material, and nuclear pores. So these are the functions of nucleus, whereas providing shape is not the function of nucleus. So shape, rigidity are the functions of cell wall and cell membrane. Okay, option 1 is wrong. This is how questions are asked based on nucleus. The next question, which is asked in 2019. Okay, let me read the question. Which statement about cells is true? Okay, which statement about cells is true? They are asking which is true among the following. Read the cells. So all cells have a nucleus. Option 2, all cells are round in shape. Option 3, cells of a tissue have a similar structure. Option 4, cell size is the same in well organized organism. So which one is true here? So which one is true means among all the 4 options, only one is right answer. One is true about the cell, others are not true about the cell. Okay, are all cells have nucleus? We just now discussed no, because there are cells which doesn't have nucleus also, that is RBC and C tubes in plants. Then all cells are round in shape. Is it true? We discussed plant cells will be rectangular in shape and C tubes are very elongated. Okay, all cells cannot be round in shape. Then all cells of a tissue have similar structure. We just now discussed. So cells of a tissue will have similar structure. So this is the right answer. Cell size is same in well organized organisms. No. So cells vary from tissue to tissue. Their shape and size will be different from different organisms. So the right answer is cells of a tissue are similar. So why it is true? Because a group of cells are called as a group of cells which has similar structure and function is called as tissue. So that is a definition of tissue, which means a tissue has similar type of cells with respect to function and structure. Okay, that is true. So 1, 2, 4 are not the right characteristics of a cell. So remember, there are anucleated cells, RBC, okay, RBC and C tube cells. So group of similar cells performing similar function. So let us move forward to the next question now. This is from 2018 previous year question. So this is an analogy type of question. Okay, first we saw which is not type of question. Okay, then we saw which is true among the following. Okay, now we are seeing the analogy type of question. So analogy is they match two materials and ask for one more. Okay, here they are matching two organelles with their function. Okay, mitochondria ATP. Okay, mitochondria is equal to ATP. We discussed mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell. Why it is called as powerhouse of a cell? Because it provides energy to the cell, and energy currency is ATP. So mitochondria has relation to ATP. So what about ribosome? So we have to find with one in the option that has relation to ribosome. So which is suitable for the ribosome here with respect to function? So is it fat? Is it protein? Is it carbohydrate? Is it vitamin? Which one? We discussed just earlier that ribosomes are the factory, protein factories of the cell. So only option 2 is right, whereas ribosome doesn't manufacture protein, fats, it doesn't manufacture vitamins, it doesn't manufacture carbohydrates. So what it does is it manufactures protein only. So mitochondria ADP, ribosome protein, it is the protein factory. Okay, it is the powerhouse of the cell, whereas fats, minerals, carbohydrates are not the products of ribosome. Okay, so this is about mitochondria, which is a powerhouse of a cell. This is also a repeated question, from year to year. So please remember this. The question is like analogy type. And let us move to one more previous year question which is asked in 2014. Okay, so what is this question? The question is which are correct. Okay, so there are don't confuse, the options are given continuously. These are the A, B, okay, C, D, A, B, C, D are given, and we have to identify which are correct among these. Which are correct? Even the question is like which among the following is true, or which among the following is in the function of a cell organelle, or function of a nucleus, or a chromosome, then it is only one. But they are asking which are. That means there are numerous right answers among the 4. So if you see options, there are multiple options here. So let us see the options and let us identify which are the right options here. The first one is prokaryotes have no nucleus. Okay, prokaryotes have no nucleus. The next one, option B, single cell can perform all functions in a unicellular organism. Okay, option B is a single cell can perform all the functions in a unicellular organism. Option C, blue-green algae are prokaryotes. Okay, option C is blue-green algae are prokaryotes. Option D, eukaryotes lack a well-organized nucleus. Okay, eukaryotes lack a well-organized nucleus. This is about the types of cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. The question is based on that concept, and they are asking us to identify which one is right. So prokaryotes have no nucleus. Is it right? Yes, it is definitely right, because prokaryotes are simplest cells and they don't have proper nucleus. Okay, and a single cell, option 2, a single cell can perform all functions in a unicellular organism. If a organism has only single cell, it performs all the functions of that organism. It performs all the functions necessary for a living. So is that right? It is also right. Yes, because bacteria is a single cell. Cyanobacteria is also a single cell. Amoeba is a single cell organism. So that one cell itself performs all the functions necessary for living purpose of that organism. So that is also right. Then option C, blue-green algae are prokaryotes. Blue-green algae, yes, they are prokaryotes, because the other name of blue-green algae is cyanobacteria. So bacteria is prokaryotic in nature, because they are the simplest, they are the oldest organisms, okay, on the earth. Then eukaryotes lack a well-organized nucleus. Eukaryotes lack a well-organized nucleus. We just now discussed eukaryotes are the ones which has well-organized nucleus and well-organized organelles too, apart from nucleus. So this is the wrong answer. So which are right? A, B and C. So A, B, C, these 3 are the correct options with respect to the cell. Okay, so A, B, C is the right answer. The false is D, because eukaryotes do not have have a well organized nucleus is a wrong concept. So only ABC is right. So prokaryotes doesn't have nucleus, and the unicellular amoeba does every job on its own, being a single cell organism. And blue green algae is cyanobacteria. So bacteria is again prokaryote. So cyanobacteria comes under bacteria and it is a prokaryote. So this is option 4. And let us move to one more question from the previous year. So this question is, the correct labeling of parts A, B, C, D of an animal cell is. So this question is little different. The diagram is not shown here, but this is to tell you what kind of questions will be asked in CTET. Okay, the question is about the correct labeling of parts A, B, C, D of an animal cell is. Like for example, the question is asking, this is the cell, okay, this is the cell, and okay, if this is a cell, they will be asking A, okay, B, C, D. So this is how a cell will be. So this is a cell and there is no labeling. So they won't give labeling and they will just give A, B, C, D, and we have to identify which part is, which organelle. So we have to, identify the organelles and just name them. So this is one more type of question where a structure of a cell, of prokaryote or eukaryote will be given. The differences also will be given, and they just give question marks R, A, B, C, D like that, and we have to label them accordingly. Okay, so this is also one more type of question which CTET will be asking you. So we have to be very clear with the diagrams and labeling of cells if we need to answer those kind of questions. So labeling of the diagram and the visual and mental understanding of the structure of cells is very important. So this is about cell. So these are few types of questions with respect to cell, and this is how the questions were being asked in CTET of previous years. So prepare accordingly. I hope you understood how the questions are being asked. Now let us quickly revise with some repeatedly asked facts, repeatedly checked facts with respect to the concept of cell. So who coined the term cell? It is Robert Hooke. So please remember, these are very important facts which will be tested on. Then prokaryotes have no nucleus. Okay, so bacteria, cyanobacteria, amoeba, bacteria, cyanobacteria are prokaryotes, so they don't have nucleus, whereas amoeba is a eukaryote. It has nucleus. So examples of prokaryotes and examples of eukaryotic organisms or eukaryotic cells, you should have an idea. Okay, so plant cell is not equal to animal cell. Why? Because there are differences between plant cells and animal cells. So what are the differences? There is cell wall and chloroplast in plant cell wall, and there is centrosome and no cell wall in animal cells. So animal cells doesn't have centrosomes, and no cell walls will be present in animal cells. Then ribosome is a protein factory. One more important fact that we should remember, it is given only ribosome here, whereas we also need to remember other facts like mitochondria is powerhouse of the cell and it generates ATP, nucleus, the function of nucleus and all. Okay, so only organelle in both cell types. So both plant cell and animal both have the ribosomes. The nucleus is the control and heredity organelle. So it is responsible for heredity and controlling all the activities of a cell. RBC, so no nucleus. We discussed about anucleate, right? Anucleate cells. So these are RBC and C tubes. Few examples of anucleate cells are RBC and C tubes. So these are the general, and most tested facts in CTET in most of the previous years. So please remember them, and also work on other facts related to cells and discoveries, the scientists who discovered these cells and which year, all these kind of questions. So things they have to carry forward are majorly with respect to nucleus, prokaryotic and eukaryotic, and organelles, their nicknames and their functions. So these three are very important with respect to part 1 of living organism. So we discussed in this session about the part 1 of living world, that is about cell, its types, its discovery, okay, and organelles of the cell and their functions. So all these are very important with respect to the subtopic of cell. So, and these three are very important. So I hope you understood where you have to focus more with respect to this concept and what kind of questions will be asked from the CTET and how you have to understand the question and understand the facts related to the cells. So very important. So please remember all these things and prepare accordingly for your exam. So we'll conclude our session now. So this is what is about cells, and in next sessions we will be continuing with part 2, part 3, part 4 of living world, because this is a huge chapter. So it is being divided into 4 parts. So this is the first part we are going to conclude, and next we'll be continuing with part 2, part 3 and part 4. So thank you. Let me conclude this session. Thank you.